It's my nerd world, and welcome to it, Depeche Mode, the podcast. Ghosts Again finally officially arrives, and this Depeche Mode fan couldn't be any happier.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to our new single, Ghosts Again, from our new album, Memento Mori, available everywhere on March 24th.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to our new single, Ghosts Again.
It is Depeche Mode, the podcast, here on My Nerd World. Welcome to it, and I'm your host, Jon Justice. Memento Mori, the new album from Depeche Mode, available everywhere March 24th. I'm looking at the rotating file of the email from the official Depeche Mode website. I'm excited. I hope you are too. It has been a journey. 6 years in the making to hear this new song. So let's start off the show this week with this from the Enemy. Depeche Mode have returned with dramatic new single Ghosts Again, as well as announcing details of their long-awaited new album Memento Mori. Depeche Mode tell about their emotional new album Memento Mori and losing Andy Fletcher. In a previous article from the NME, due for release on March 24th, the synth-pop legend's 15th studio album, Memento Mori, comes previewed by Ghosts Again, and its video by their legendary and longtime visual collaborator, Anton Corbijn. I might have said Gahan Corbijn at one point during the show that I did yesterday, and that's just because of the sci-fi book that I wrote where the character's name is Gahan Corbijn. So if I did that, I apologize. Of course, it's Anton Corbijn. My character in my story is named after Dave Gahan and Anton Corbijn, clearly. In the NME article, it goes on to say, "To me, Ghosts Again just captures this perfect balance of melancholy and joy," said frontman Dave Gahan of the song, with bandmate Martin Gore adding, "It's not often that we record a song that I just don't get sick of listening to. I'm excited to be able to share it." And I don't either. There is zero burn for me on this song so far. So yesterday, I'm recording this on Thursday afternoon. Yesterday morning, after I got home from work, it wasn't, it might have been in the afternoon. I was thankfully sent by a new friend of mine a link to hear the song. Clearly somebody at a radio station had released the radio version, because the version that I got yesterday is actually about 20 or 30 seconds shorter than the album version that came out today. The quality on it was pretty decent. Not nearly as good as what was officially released today. So I had the opportunity to spend most of the afternoon and this morning driving into work and at work listening to it. And there's been absolutely zero burn on the song. Now, I've been trying to limit myself because I don't want to get burned on it. And I think that it would be difficult to do because I really do honestly love Ghosts Again that much. For me personally, and it's all subjective, this song is, for me, the best single that they have released, going all the way back to, honestly, Enjoy the Silence. And I could run through the list of singles, and while I certainly love those other songs, Ghosts Again just really has struck a chord with me, no pun intended, in a way that a Depeche Mode, a first single from a Depeche Mode album really hasn't in a very long time. I wasn't the biggest fan of Heaven. I've mentioned this before. I enjoyed Where's the Revolution for what it sounded like. Spirit, the entire album, didn't resonate with me in full because of the political bend of the album. It's just something that I wasn't akin to. There have been moments when I've revisited the album as of late, and I've been able to find more enjoyment in the song based off of external factors in my life, and I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. There's an interesting email here and some things I want to share. But Spirit in and of itself, in terms of the more political bent to it, isn't one that I typically would lean back to because of the lyrical content. I'm more of an emotional kind of guy. I like the pain and suffering in various tempos, Depeche Mode, songs of love and lust, the things of this nature. So moving back through the singles, Heaven off of Delta Machine, I was not a fan of once it was released. I've found some new love for that song as of late, but still not one that really grabbed me. I loved Wrong. I thought that was a great single. Precious obviously was an amazing single as well, and then you back up into Dream On. It was okay, a little subdued, but it was okay. Barrel of a Gun, I enjoyed quite a bit. It felt a bit like it was lifted from the Songs of Faith and Devotion era, so it wasn't. While it was a very striking song at its release, it gave me sort of a similar vibe as I Feel You did when I first heard it, where it felt like kind of a companion song to I Feel You from Songs of Faith and Devotion. And Songs of Faith and Devotion with I Feel You was a track that really kind of threw me for a loop, and that took a while to grow on me. So that takes us all the way back to Violator. If I missed one, forgive me. That takes us all the way back to Violator. I didn't write notes on this. I wrote notes on a lot of other things, though. And, Enjoy the Silence, which just immediately struck a chord. From the moment I heard the snippet, there was something about this song, and now that I've been able to hear it in its entirety in various different ways, whether it's watching the video and turning it up loud on my TV sound system, whether it's headphones or listening in the car, the song is absolutely beautiful. So for the podcast today, I want to run through some details from the single in and of itself. I have an email preview. I have an email that I'm going to put inside the core portion of the show here because it relates to some of the credits that are on the song that are a bit surprising. Then I want to give you my thoughts on the song from a technical aspect and from a lyrical aspect, and then we'll get into some listener feedback. So first, let's go ahead and start here. I have an email. It says, "Hello, John." Hello. Fellow author and musician here, longtime DM fan. Been really enjoying your podcast. And my burgeoning DM fan daughter, who is 9 years old, loves listening along too. Oh, that's sweet. I have a few interesting DM stories to maybe share in the future. For now, though, I thought you might enjoy this regarding Ghosts Again. See the writers. Perhaps a mistake or a sampling credit, but strange that Richard Butler is in there, along with other credits that look genuine. So he sent me a link over to genius.com, and they have quite a few pages there devoted to. They have one section devoted to Memento Mori. And you can pull up the details specifically for Ghosts Again because it's been released, while it looks like the other details for the other tracks on the album, which have now fully been confirmed, are pending the release of those tracks. So in those credits, and thank you, Babak, for the email. I hope I'm saying your name correct, and say hi to your daughter for me as well. It credits Dave on guitar, but then under the composer, written by, and lyricist categories, it does have Martin Gore and Richard Butler. And it specifically links to Richard Lofthouse Butler, born June 5th, 1956, is a singer, songwriter, and painter. He's best known as the lead singer and co-founder for the Psychedelic Furs. In the 1990s, during a hiatus from the Furs, he founded the alternative rock band Love Spit Love with his younger brother Tim, a bassist for the Furs. In 2006, he released the solo album Richard Butler. I was actually a fan, quite a big fan of that Love Spit Love. I think he did a couple, but definitely that first one I was quite a big fan of. I always enjoyed the Psychedelic Furs, but never actually purchased any of their records, while I did purchase the Love Spit Love record. So, this is really interesting that Richard Butler has been included on the credits here, and it hasn't been mentioned yet in any of the interviews. And so I'm I'm hoping, as we have received in the past backstories on the creation of these albums, especially with the documentaries, while the band has been somewhat, and Martin's always been reluctant to shed light on his songwriting process and specifically what inspired him for particular songs. I'm very interested to hear how Richard Butler came into the mix and whether or not he is a part of the album in its entirety, or if he was simply a portion of the songwriting crew for Ghosts Again. Now, on that page, it does appear, when you back out fully and look at the credits in their entirety for Memento Mori, and I'm actually going to do that right now. I still have the browser pulled up on my desktop here. Looking at the credits, the full credits for the album, it has Richard Butler on it completely. So you have Matt Colton as mastering engineer, again Dave Gahan on guitar, Marta Solongni as mixing engineer, along with producing credits with James Ford. And then, composer, written by, and lyricist Martin L. Gore and Richard Butler. So we'll see. I'm really interested to hear how the band and Martin ended up hooking up with Richard Butler. Now, I want to get into a bit of that based off of the sound of Ghosts Again itself. Before we get to that, the new official image on the Apple iTunes page is... It had been, since the Berlin press conference, one of the recent promotional photos that we received after the Berlin press conference of Dave and Martin. Martin sitting down, Dave standing next to him, and they're both dressed in their respective suits in a white background. Now the image on the Apple iTunes page is a snippet of the band, of Martin and Dave, from the Anton Corbijn Ghosts Again video. In terms of the video, I don't have a ton to say on that. I enjoyed the video. As always, I would like to see a little bit more performance of the band, so my favorite portion of the video was the portions where Dave was singing, and they looked to be in a cemetery. I want to go back and watch it again. I enjoyed the video more than other recent videos. The visuals certainly work, but it is very typical. Typical Anton. So you're getting something very artistic. But I did really enjoy the video, and like I said, I'm looking forward to going in and watching it again. It was a little bit frustrating because, just as a side note, I left work like right at 10 o'clock today, which is later than I normally do because I get there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I do a lot of work at home. Not like I have to justify it, but I'm just telling you. So, I got in the car and was expecting for it to hop up on the streaming platforms on iTunes right away, and it didn't. It was my mistake because by the time that the official Depeche Mode accounts had tweeted and posted that the song was available, I didn't do the smart thing and click on the link. I was driving inside of the actual post that they had put out. And in that post, it would direct you to, for me, the iTunes page where the song was located, because I kept trying to quickly refresh on iTunes, and the song wasn't coming up. I'm a little disappointed doing that thing with my fingers. We weren't promised anything on this, but I did kind of have an expectation that we would have received a single release streaming online that maybe had some remixes, and I was assuming we were going to get some B-sides. Now, maybe the single will come out at a later date. We haven't heard any specific details about when that single release will come out, and I have not seen anywhere where you can order physical copies of Ghosts Again yet, even though you can pre-order Memento Mori in a regular edition. I think it was like a limited edition, which I assume is going to be something expanded with extra songs like what we received. And there's no confirmation of this yet, but we did receive something to that effect with the Spirit release. Right now, what you can pre-order is just the 12-track Memento Mori album. So I'm very interested to see if we're going to get a single digital and physical release, because I would like to get a physical release of Ghosts Again that includes the B-sides that we we're kind of all expecting and have been told about. But again, there hasn't been anything officially released on that front. If you have any further information, feel free to email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the track itself. And again, I want to talk about the technical aspects of it, my opinion, and then talk about its lyrical content. And again, I just really love this song. And I think that this team that has been put together around Memento Mori may have done something the band hasn't been able to do, in my opinion, in quite a long time. So first, let's just start off with the technical aspects of the song, and I'll share my views on it. As the song starts off, it is, and again, this is all just my opinion. Okay, having spent many listens of the track so far. Musically, it's fairly similar to what we've heard, in a post-Alan era Depeche Mode, and I don't want to cement my feet on that. And what I mean is that I don't want to judge everything based on a post-Alan era. I'm just saying that the way this song starts off is something that seems fairly typical for tracks from Depeche Mode after Alan left. The beginning of the song actually gives me kind of Exciter vibes. We've got the guitar, which is rather minimal. We've got minimal beats that are taking place, and as we roll into the lyrical portion of the first part of the song, it starts to get a little chunkier, a little beefier. There's an undercurrent of the song that's getting ready to erupt with this driving beat. I saw some commentary on the home Depeche Mode message board, and the comparisons to it being the best single since Precious, which I certainly agree with. I go back further than that, as I said earlier. This track is actually, I think, Precious clocks in at 105 beats per minute, while Ghosts Again clocks in at 115. It's got a nice little rhythm. I was walking around the studio this morning prepping for the show, and it was almost timed perfectly with my stride. It reminded me a bit of Nothing. As I was walking around and listening to it, I suddenly got this Nothing vibe off of Music for the Masses. Then, once we're past the first chorus at about 1:24, the song really expands. It fills the sonic space, and now the song takes flight. We're often in flying. We're off and running. You get some light synth work in the background that comes in, definitely noticeable. It's light synth work, but it's not subtle. So it's not something you need to have headphones on. You catch it more with headphones on, but even driving in the car, you can definitely hear the synth work. And Dave's vocals end up soaring for the second time. Those two moments in the song, the Midnights and the Cry line, the vocals just, it's incredible to me. Dave's vocals, the band's ability after all these years to still create such amazing music, it really is a testament to the longevity of this band. We hit the chorus for a second time, and then we get these amazing twinkling keys into the chorus, and or out of the chorus. And I love that moment. It has this Construction Time Again vibe to it. It took me a little while to land on what era it was reminding me of, but I just happened to be watching the documentary for Construction Time Again last night before I was going to bed, and hearing some of the keyboard sounds from different tracks on that record, and it reminded me of the twinkling keys in Ghosts Again, reminded me very much of that era. Then, of course, we get the chorus two more times, and then we are treated to what is almost an instrumental tribute to everything that just came before in the song. And it was so refreshing and uplifting and filled me with so much joy hearing the song for the first time yesterday, when after we got the last two choruses, if I'm wording that correctly, we heard the chorus 2 times with different lyrics at the end of the song, an expectation that it was going to end right after the second chorus, and then it didn't. And the song kept going. And to repeat myself, it almost feels like this instrumental tribute to everything that we had heard before, the song in full bloom with a repeating of the twinkling of the keyboard to the finale. And that, to me, just cemented my joy almost instantly for this song. I would compare it to watching a movie where I don't want the movie to end. That, to me, is the sign of a good movie. I completely forget about the time, and I'm watching this, and I don't forget about the time, but I forget about the time for a moment until I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, wow, a lot of time has gone by, and I check my watch not to see, how quickly is it going to end, but to see how much more of this do I get. And when it came to the finale of Ghosts Again, and the music continued after that final chorus, I was so thankful. Because, and I don't have any examples on the top of my head, but it feels like the band has become sort of akin to ending a song on a lyrical note, not letting it fade out. And I wonder if this can be attributed to the team that's behind this album. So getting back to the credits, with Richard Butler joining the mix, James Ford accompanied by Marta Solongny, I want to say that right. It would appear that, in this case, and we haven't heard the rest of the album yet, obviously, but they've taken a nicely penned song and they've made something very special out of it. The song very intently delivers on every single level. The band documentaries have always shown that they want their songs to be pushed to their true potential. I think every musical artist would want that, right? And I'm getting the sense that this team for Memento Mori is one that has created something better than what we've heard in a long time. Going back to, again, I'm going to go, well, I'll bring in we'll go sort of the trifecta of albums for the most part. We'll go back to Flood and then we'll move forward. But I'll start with Tim Simonon on Ultra. He did good work on Ultra. But the band was in a weird spot within their career. Alan left, Dave was going through his issues, so they were in a bit of a phase. It's a great record regardless, but one has to wonder if we were looking at a band at full strength, if Alan hadn't left and we had Tim Simonon, what Ultra would have sounded like. And that's not me saying that album needs improvement, but that is me saying that I think that Songs of Faith and Devotion is a far superior record, in my opinion, than Ultra is. You get Mark Bell on Exciter, and the album sounded great, in my opinion. Lyrically, we know that, well, if you don't know, Martin struggled a bit with writer's block, but I also feel like the songs could have been pushed further by Mark Bell, and the band was very vocal in that they needed somebody who was going to push them. And then we get the albums from Ben Hillier, and he did a good job. From Sounds of the Universe to Delta Machine, I enjoyed those records, but they never ultimately, in my opinion, pushed the band to the production heights of Violator and Songs of Faith and Devotion in a way that Flood did. And I'm wondering if this James Ford, Marta Solongny, and perhaps Richard Butler joining in the mix, that this team might have brought the band back to those heights. And clearly they liked working with James Ford. I was kind of thinking that the band would use James Ford to move on to somebody else, being the, latter part of their career and wanting to work with new people. I really enjoyed, as I've said, I thought the production work on Spirit was fantastic. So I was excited to hear this album from a technical standpoint and a production standpoint. What Marta has done here, and perhaps with the inclusion on the writing team of Richard Butler, I'm I'm very, very optimistic for the rest of this for this album, and very, very curious about these song titles, to say the least. As always, what do you think? Drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. Let's talk just a little bit the lyrical aspect of us again. And again, this is my subjective view. I'm not going to get too deep on this, only because I'd really hate to ruin it for anybody else. I would hate to present my view of this song and have that end up forming whatever your view of this song. I mean, that's what's so unique and special about Depeche Mode is the ambiguity of the songs. I mean, Dave himself has said that over time these songs have taken on different meanings for him. Perhaps that's why he took to so much crotch grabbing during World in My Eyes on the Spirit Tour, which I just thought was weird. I don't know about you. The way that Dave sings, that's all there is on the Spirit Tour, and does his crotch grab, I'm lost. It's lost on me. I don't understand that, and I don't particularly care for the way he sings that. But Dave's gonna be Dave, man. I was watching going back to a Broken Frame, tour era, and that Dave wearing collared shirts and khakis and throwing his arms up and down. It's just like, Dave's always just been Dave. So back to the lyrics of the song. When I got in the car this morning to drive to work on a very chilly Minnesota morning at 4:30 a.m., the sun hadn't come up yet, and I'm listening to Ghosts again in the car for the first time. As I've talked about on the show, losing my best friend last year was still is difficult, but I'm listening to the lyrics more intently on the drive in, sort of being by myself and where I primarily listen to music. And there's something special about being behind the wheel of a car and listening to Depeche Mode music. There always has been, for me. I mean, the two are just go together. I probably listen to Depeche Mode more in my car than I have anywhere else, apart from lying in bed at night before I go to sleep. But I'm listening to the lyrics this morning, and again, my subjective view is the song is about death, but it's more about death and the expectations of heaven and meeting loved ones again. I'm not going to go lyric by lyric on this. I'm just going to give you an overview of my thoughts. The line of ghosts again, we will, ghosts again. In my view, it's a different take on we'll meet again. We'll be ghosts again. We'll be meeting again. Less about we were ghosts once before, we will be them again. But instead of saying we'll meet again, we'll be ghosts again. Meaning we'll be ghosts together in a different place. And maybe that's the obvious takeaway from that, and I'm landing on something that you've already, thought of. But that was something that really came to mind this morning listening to the song on the drive in. It wasn't this repeat of we were ghosts once, we will be ghosts again. It's like, no, we will meet again, but we will meet again as ghosts. Another way of saying I'll see you in heaven. And again, I'm going to leave it at that for fear of tainting anyone's particular view on the lyrics. And to be quite honest, I was thinking very much about my friend Drew in that moment. But hearing the lyrics of Lovers and how memento mori and remember you must die, everything's going to come to an end, but those individuals in life will meet as ghosts again later on. I would be curious to hear what your thoughts are. And again, talkshownerd@gmail.com. All right, let's go ahead and get into some listener feedback. I have some amazing emails that I have received that I am holding off on for future episodes. And these are emails specifically from you who have taken the time to just put down some beautiful words about your own Depeche Mode stories that I want to share on the show and that I will share on the show. But I'm going to do that as we head into these weeks, months, and the next year or two in the promotion and discovery of Memento Mori. So if you haven't heard your comment or you haven't heard your email, that would be the reason why. So I'm keeping all of those, and I plan on sharing those on future podcasts. So we'll start off here from Victor, whose name was in Cyrillic, and I couldn't remember what it was called yesterday, and it was driving me nuts. I didn't want to stop the show. It was Cyrillic. So he writes, "Hello again. Actually, my name is Victor. Not so hard to pronounce, only to read in Cyrillic." And I think I'm saying that right. I want to learn how to. I really actually want to learn how to read that, because I am fascinated by that. Whenever I see the Russian language, it's fascinating to me. Ever since the Hunt for Red October, I know that is so cliche, but it's true. At the beginning of the Hunt for Red October, when the logo for the movie comes up and it shifts from that to English. Ghosts Again is on fire. Such a great song, and it has finally something to offer those who want 80s Depeche Mode, those 80s Depeche Mode fans. Yeah. Thank you, Victor, very much for the email. Neotech writes, "I was lucky enough to hear the song yesterday, and I was happily surprised. I actually liked it. While it has simplistic lyrics, perhaps it's a Dave Penn track. No, it's a Martin track. A bit too straightforward and poppy and lacking layering and atmosphere. I still enjoyed the song." And, I disagree with that, but again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. "I'm shocked. I was ready to dislike it. I have most of their material post-97. No, don't bring back Alan, but it's so obvious what DM has been lacking over the years. And yes, Recoil mostly sucked as well." And again, this goes back to what I was mentioning of the James Marda, and potentially Richard Butler team on this album, along with Martin and Dave. Maybe they've landed on something. Jim Udenberg writes, "Finally, the real day is here. The snippet sounds good. Still has a tinny, distorted sound that's permeated the last couple of albums, rather than the deeper, smoother, more melodic sounds of the late 80s to early zeros. High hopes for the B-sides in the album." Mark, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. This was looking like a name tagged in that email. That was from Jim. Thank you, Jim. And yeah, I'm wondering about these B-sides in the full single. And every time I go to do the show, something happens. So I'm checking my Twitter right now just to make sure I didn't miss something while I'm recording here. Depeche Mode _SK, which is an account you need to follow. Posted. There's a great color photo of the band. Looks like it was taken during the filming of the video. It's a great shot. It was used in the NME article if you haven't seen it yet. Mark Leaning says, "Effing amazing. I love it." Nice. Got an email from Jeff Gold, who wrote prior to the release and the official release date, who says, "I'm thinking that those posters floating around the web today showing the March 24th date are perhaps fakes. If these are being seen around Europe as is stated, the date more than likely would have been written 24 March. Have you had any confirmation other than individuals who have seen the posters in person?" Well, we do now. He goes on to say that he was hoping for March 17th, but obviously that's not happening now. Then he says, "Love your podcast. Thank you. Just found it. If I can get dog sitters trained in time for our 20 rescue dogs." Wow, man. Hats off to you. I love dogs. We have our beloved Artemis, and she's fantastic. She's a black-mouthed cur, and she's wonderful. If you're not familiar with black-mouthed curs, then if you are familiar with the Rhodesian Ridgebacks, she looks like that. If not, she's 40 pounds, a short-haired brown dog, and sweet to us, but hates the rest of the world. I plan to be in Sacramento. This would be Jeff writing, if you can get dog sitters. San Jose and Las Vegas, and maybe, just maybe, Berlin. Wow. I'd love to learn more about your work outside of Depeche Mode. Your podcast is very professional and well put together. Are you a radio professional outside of the podcast? I am. I have been for about 27 years now. I started in music radio back in 96 and spent the first part of my career doing alternative rock, morning and afternoon shows and rock afternoon shows, and then transitioned to a news talk show host right around 2006. Friend of the show, Jon Justice, wrote, "Absolutely loved it. So excited to get my hands on the CD, single, and full album." Thank you, John, as always. Good talking with you yesterday. Russman1966 says, fantastic song. Had it on repeat for the last hour. I think this is the best song that the band has put out in years. I lost my mom about a month ago and only laid her to rest yesterday. Wow, very sorry for your loss. So this song is helping me through this time, as DM always do for us all. Dean writes, just listening to your latest podcast after listening to the leaked Ghosts Again single a dozen times. I like it a lot, very pleasant to the ears. We're coming from New Zealand for the Sacramento show, which is going to be very interesting if the Memento Mori album drops the day after the show. Can concert number 1 be rebranded as an album release party? What's your take on this? It appears the marketing department should be looking for different careers. Somebody was making a comment that the pressing... Oh, actually, no. It's in the next... So, Dean says, looking forward to the trip. Dean. So, Dean, in answer to your question, our final listener feedback this week from Tokyo Skyline writes, and this may be what happened. Listening to the YouTube broadcast of the podcast, typing this out, if the release date of the album has been pushed back to the 24th from an earlier date, then perhaps it may have to do with bad pressing of the album sleeve. I noticed the dividing horizontal line separating Depeche and Mode was wobbly on the leaked images a few days ago, not a clean straight line like all the font work we've seen. So perhaps a reprint was requested. Interesting. Maybe that was. And the leaked version was a discarded copy of an initial print run. The release of the singles from Spirit was also very odd. Usually they would release a single every few months, yet if my memory serves me correctly, Going Backwards and Cover Me was released within just weeks of each other. The skull on the table image. Again, with art, no one's opinion is wrong. Looking at some sites, some fans are appalled and offended, suggesting it is a reference to Fletch. Why do they find the skull offensive, but not the angel wings or the album title, which could be deemed as just as distasteful in the wake of Fletch's sad passing, as both represent death? To me, I don't see the skull as any suggestion of Fletch. If I had specs on, then I would. If it had specs on, then I would think differently, and I would have been offended. Sunglasses. I see it in keeping with the album title and symbolizes that death is on the table and awaits us all. The skull imagery is an image strongly linked to the term memento mori, so I was expecting to see it feature on the artwork somewhere. I thought a skull may have been on the cover, possibly a close-up of Dave's skull ring. Looking forward to tomorrow and your next show, which we're currently listening to. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, that wraps up the show for this week. I look forward to hearing from you, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. We got a lot to cover in the coming weeks, months, and year, and I can't wait to continue to share it with you and hear your stories as we all go on this Depeche Mode Memento Mori journey. It's just been such a ride so far, and what a great start to this new era. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe on the podcast. And if you want to support my nerd world and you like science fiction, I hope you'll go to mynerdworld.net. Check out my science fiction space opera series, EMBARK. If you like your science fiction epic filled with some romance and action, and you like Depeche Mode, EMBARK is perfect for you. Written for adults, but great for ages 11 plus. Available in hardcover, paperback, audiobook, and ebook. Again, on Amazon.com or mynerdworld.net. All right, talk to you again next week. I hope wherever you are happy, you are healthy, and you are safe. Bye.